Falling forward and falling back. Falling forward is usually just a matter of setting up correctly. Falling back is usually caused by the ridiculous cue to keep your weight on your heels.
Falling forward or falling back on the deadlift can come from one of two problems. It's either the setup or it's the actual movement. So first I'd like to get the setup out of the way, since you shouldn't have to worry about that when you're deadlifting. You always want to make sure that the bar is over the center of your foot. The center is from your heel to your toe, not from the front of your shin to your toe. So from your heel to your toe, find halfway, that's your center of gravity. You want the bar to be over that point. The next portion is that you want your shoulder joint to be directly over the bar as well. Because if your shoulder is too far forward or too far back, then the bar will not be pulled in a straight line and your arms will either be swinging forward or it will be swinging into your knees and you'll end up rounding your back because of that. So now that we got the setup out of the way, let me talk about the weight distribution so you shouldn't have any weight shift issues and that you shouldn't fall forward or fall back during the actual lift. I want you to think of your foot like a tripod. Your heel, your big toe, and your small toe. Just like in a tripod, if any one of the legs are missing, the balance will shift and the tripod can fall over. It's the same idea in your foot. A lot of people will tell you, put the weight on the heels, put the weight on the toes, all these different things. The best idea is just to keep it balanced. Sometimes somebody will tell you to keep your weight on your heels because they see that your weight's on your toes. So when you have a bar of metal and the bar is bent, to make it straight again, you have to overbend it to the other side. If you just bend it till it's straight, it'll still be slightly bent. But don't mistake this. If someone tells you, shift your weight to your heels, it doesn't mean all of your weight should be on your heels. It means keep the weight evenly distributed. At every point during the lift, you want 1/3 of the weight on your heel, 1/3 of the weight on the ball of your foot, and 1/3 of the weight on the other end of your foot near your small toe. This will help keep the weight evenly distributed and it will allow you to use most of your muscles more efficiently, which will also let you pull more weight. This is the only tip that applies to everyone at all times, everywhere during the deadlift. You will always be able to deadlift better if your weight is evenly distributed. So if you're having weight shift issues in the deadlift, please try this out and see if it helps.
Rib flare. Rib flare can be spotted by the increase in length between your lower rib and upper hip. It is also usually followed by an exaggerated anterior pelvic tilt at the lockout. Some may refer to this as an Instagram deadlift. This is an indication that you are using your spinal erectors concentrically to produce lifting force instead of isometrically to transfer lifting force. This position will also keep your glute muscles in a lengthened position, limiting their leverage and minimizing their association with this lift. Chest breath. Chest breath is a topic in and of itself which will be discussed in greater depth at another time. In regards to the deadlift though, it defeats the main purpose of the breath and should be avoided.
I firmly believe that doing deadlifts in front of a mirror and taking a big chest breath come from the same root problem. People like watching themselves deadlift because when you deadlift in front of a mirror and you're deadlifting heavy weight, all of your muscles get a pump and they look big and people enjoy this. Taking a big chest breath makes your chest look extra big, and that's a lot of times I see why people do it. So forget about the looks for a second. Don't do deadlifts in front of a mirror. Take the deadlifts away from the mirror and remember that the part of your torso that needs the breath is the lower part, not the upper part. The breath is used for tension. The breath is used to help transfer the force. The part of your torso that has the most forces applied to it is your lower torso. The part of your torso that needs the most amount of reinforcement from the breath is your lower torso. So taking breath to your upper chest doesn't help much in the actual movement. So if you forget about the looks for a second and you forget about the mirror and remember that the part of your torso that needs most of your breath support is in the lower part of your torso, this should really help you keep your breath at the lower part of your belly. Remember, do the deadlift right and enjoy the looks after. You don't have to enjoy the looks during the actual deadlift. They do actually last a few minutes. Trust me, you can take a look at yourself when you're done deadlifting. It's still worthwhile. If you still have a hard time breathing into your belly after this, I want you to imagine like you have a tire around your stomach and you're trying to fill the tire full of air with every breath. That's right, the breath is not just to the belly, it's a 360-degree breath. You should be able to also feel the breath in your lower back, on your obliques, and even a little bit down into your hip, right on top of your pubic bone, right? So you have a tire around your belly, and you're trying to fill this entire area full of breath. Keep practicing, you'll get better at it. I used to be an exclusive chest breather. I couldn't even direct a single breath to my belly, and now I can breathe to my belly, to my back, to my sides very easily. And trust me, it is worth the practice. This will make many areas of your life a lot better. All of the tips and cues that I talked about in this video so far are cues and tips that are revolving around the industry. None of them are mine originally. This last tip I'm going to go over is a tip that I came up with based on a specific needs analysis. I saw that in my deadlift, the biggest two issues were my grip would give out and that I would forget to push myself away from the ground. Two issues that many people have. It is also very well known that the more things you have to think about during the lift, the less likely the lift will go well. So if you have 5 problems and you're trying to think about 5 different cues at the same time, it will get too complex and you'll end up not doing any of them correctly. So the ultimate cue, the Superman of all cues, is to be able to find one cue that involves all of your problems together and fixes all of them. So my biggest problems were my grip would give out and I'd forget to push my feet into the ground. So I came up with a cue that helped solve both of these problems at the same time. Now keep in mind that, as I said earlier, cues are very specific to the individual. They help best when they have something to do with you, when you can associate to that, when you had a life experience that maybe relates to that. So for many of you, this may seem completely absurd and maybe even gruesome, and for other people who have had such an experience, maybe it'll seem a little more realistic and it'll actually help you with the deadlift. So what I think of is I have 2 poisonous, venomous snakes in my hand. My feet are stepping on the tail and my hands are grabbing the neck, right? Now, the bottom position of the deadlift, there's slack in the snake's body, and as I get to the top, I'm trying to tear the head off the body. Yeah, I know, kind of gruesome, but if you don't, the snake will bite you and kill you. Let's say, for example, we're not actually killing any snakes here. What this does is simultaneously makes you grip your hand as hard as you possibly can and push your feet into the ground as hard as you can. If you don't like the snake example, you can also use just a rope. You have an end of a rope under your foot and an end of a rope in your hand and you're trying to tear the rope. What this does is it places maximal emphasis on separating your hands from your legs, which is essentially what the deadlift is doing. You're trying to separate the bar from the ground. The snake helps me because it helps me get my adrenaline going. I can get very vivid and actually think that the snake is gonna bite me, and it helps me get all hyped up. If you're not into that, if that doesn't work for you, again, you can think of a string, you can think of licorice, you can think of whatever you want, you can think of a plant. It doesn't bother me as long as it works for you. Now let me show you what the difference is, what the end result is between when I don't think of that and when I do think of that. So I'm going to do 2 reps of just me thinking of regular deadlift stuff like, hinge, spill the platter off my back, things like that. You'll see that, and then I'll do another 2 reps thinking of the snake example, and you'll just see the difference in the power, the aggression, and the synergy. Okay, so here goes. So again, it might not work for everyone. For everyone, something else works. But for me, it puts the movement together. It makes it all work. It makes it one movement. The pushing your feet into the ground and gripping the bar off the ground. It makes it one task. And in my head, it's a task that I'm using to save my life. I sincerely hope that this video was helpful for you and it may help you with some of your deadlift issues. If you didn't qualify for some of the prerequisites for the deadlift, stay tuned for episode number 4. I'm going to go over some specific techniques, how to go from a person that can't deadlift to a person that could deadlift through different stretching techniques, isometrics, etc., different kind of things like that.